Hi YouTube subscribers, hi YouTube world. I wanted to give you guys an update. Sorry I haven't been uploading a lot of new content lately, but I at least wanted to at least catch you up on what's been going on in my life, even if I don't have the time to be uploading a ton of new content right now, just due to working a lot and getting used to my new schedule and everything. So, I've been on my own now at work for 2 weeks. The first week was pretty rough that I was on my own. Again, I got moved to a unit. For those of you who haven't been following my last video, I got moved to a unit that's more high-paced, higher acuity, a lot of ventilator-dependent patients. So with the same amount of patients as the other unit. So it's just a lot. I can have, 14 patients, sometimes more, and they're all pretty, like total care type of patients and with a lot going on with them. So it's been a lot. The first week was pretty rough, because I remember like 1 or 2 days going okay, but then my last day was terrible because all my patients just didn't seem to be doing well. I was on a different cart than what I've been on before, so I didn't really know a lot of the patients. They were all like fairly new to me, and a lot of them had all of a sudden new emerging problems like chest pain or fevers, stuff that had to be taken care of right away, and or they had a lot of psych issues and were constantly pulling themselves away from the vent, and alarms were going off all night. It was just absolutely a lot to handle at once. When I tell you a lot, it was a lot. I'm only telling you half of what was going on, but, and it was just kind of one of those nights when none of your patients are doing well, and anything psych related that could be going on was, and, I was there pretty late that day. It was very rough. I actually went home and cried a bit just because I was like, that was too much. It was too overwhelming. The other nurses I was with, I think, could tell I was struggling, so they did try to help me out a little bit. I think they knew that, hey, I have a lot going on right now with my patients, so they were trying to call in things for me because I had to get a lot of x-rays and stuff done stat. So they were helping in that case, but it's hard there because everybody's got such a full load that it's hard to help out other people sometimes, I feel like, because then you'll get so behind, and then if you have to come back that night, you don't want to be there so late. So thank goodness I didn't have to be back that night, but and everything wound up turning out okay by the end of the evening, or day, I guess, because I work nights. But it was it was like a crash course landing into nursing my first week on my own. Like, here you go. But and I guess because the other night went so well, that night had to be, everybody, all my patients not doing well type of thing. But so that was the first week, and it kind of all goes into a blur because so much happens. Like, I don't really remember how the first night on my own went, but I've had other nights where I was on my own because a trainer didn't show up or whatever. So it wasn't really my first night on my own, but it was my first week for sure where I was always by myself. And I don't really remember the first night, but the second night went okay, and then like I said, the third night was just like chaos. But then this week that just passed went okay. The first night did not go okay because we had a temp agency nurse. We have 3 nurses on my unit at night, and one of the nurses that was supposed to be on the first night I went back was from a temp agency, and they were late, so we didn't know if they were showing up or what. So me and the other nurse kept telling the staffing person, like, we don't know what's going on, but we need that third nurse. She was in contact with them. They kept saying they were coming or they were there, but they weren't. Finally, the temp agency nurse shows up, and this was already an hour or so past into the shift, and we're starting to like panic, me and the other nurse, because like, what do we do? These patients need their meds and stuff. Is this person going to show up? Do we need to take on those patients as well? What's going on? So finally that person shows up, and me and the other nurse give them a report, and right away she goes, I showed up, but if this is too much, if I feel like this is too much, I'm just gonna leave. And me and the other nurse are like, what the heck? Like, these patients need us. What do you mean you're just gonna leave? So anyway, we both kind of were like, okay. And then we do our best to give her a report, and I told her I would help her with the IV medications that need to be held or hung. I would hung them for her. Like, I tried to tell her, like, hey, we're gonna try to help you as much as we can, because you obviously seem like you don't want to be here and this is too much for you. But anyways, about 5 minutes later, after all that, we give her a report and everything. She goes, you know what, this is just too much. This is too overwhelming. I'm leaving. And the staffing person is like, what do you mean? And she's like, I'm going home. And I'm kind of like, what? Because I've never seen that before, where a nurse just walks out, and especially after getting a report and everything. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, these patients need us. I know this unit is crazy. I know where we work is so busy, and I do feel like we need a fourth nurse at night, even though we only get 3. But anyways, like, if you weren't going to come, then why did you keep, like, yanking her chain and saying you were going to come? And then you finally do show up, and then you decide to leave. Like, to me, that was pretty crappy of her to do. If you don't like our facility, and you feel like especially that unit is too much, then you need to either tell your agency, I will only work there if I'm on certain units, or I'm not going to work there. Don't, like, be wishy-washy and then leave us scrambling, because then what wound up happening was me and the other nurse had to take on way more patients than we should have, because we didn't have a replacement till late in the evening, almost into the next shift, which is not good patient care. So I was pretty upset about that, and we got out really late because of all the extra things we had to take on that night, me and the other nurse. But yeah, it was pretty much a crap show that night. Luckily, all the patients were okay. Everybody was fairly stable that night, but that upset me that nurse did that. And I'd worked with her before, and I knew she was overwhelmed, but like, I feel like we always are on that unit, so I didn't really think too much of it. She didn't really say much, just I know it a couple times she seemed kind of a little bit snippy, just because I think our unit and the facility can be a lot, but she never said before, like, oh, I'm gonna leave or anything. So I was pretty shocked that she did that. But anyway, yeah. And then my second night went pretty well this week. Then my third night was kind of rough. Had a lot going on with someone. And, I was kind of struggling a bit with one of the doctors, because I felt like a patient needed something and they didn't. And to me, that is very tough as a new nurse, trying to voice, like, your concerns for a patient and getting arguments from the doctor saying, no, they're fine, da-da-da, when you feel like, no, they're not fine. They need this. They need certain things right now. Like, I need you to help me out and make these orders. But anyway, I felt like they weren't hearing. I was trying to say and be an advocate as much as I could for my patient, and I felt like this particular doctor was not helping me, and that was very frustrating and very just upsetting. Like, I care so much about my patients, and it's upsetting if I feel like somebody else doesn't care or something. Like, I don't know. Sorry, I don't mean to be always getting emotional in my videos at some point, but I feel like that happens. But anyway, that was difficult to deal with. But by the end of the night, I was able to get another doctor and my other nurses to help me out so that this patient was as stable as we could get them. And I felt like I did the best job I could with what I was given. And the patient was stable. So that's good. You know, I guess that's just something you have to deal with as a nurse. Sometimes you feel like you're the only advocate, especially if they don't have a lot of family or anybody. Sometimes you have to be that voice. And it's hard when you're trying to advocate for a patient and the person above you, the doctor, is not really helping you. It's hard. So you kind of have to like get creative, go around and see if another doctor will help you, see if your other nurses can help you. Just being a nurse in general is very hard, I feel like. But I will say the other day, a little girl saw me as I was almost ready to go into work, and she saw me in my uniform with my stethoscope. And she said, it was a little girl or a little boy, I can't remember. But she said to her mom, wow, is that a doctor? And I just got like really happy at that, and I felt a lot of pride just because I do love being in the medical field. I feel like there's a lot of pride that comes with that, and I'm just happy to be in a field where I feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives every day. Even though you have your rough nights, like things like that like kind of push me on, like I'm doing the right thing and I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I hope that I am like a role model to other people who are interested in getting into nursing or just getting into the medical field in general. Like, I like that, I just like that that little kid was like, I don't know, just noticed me in my uniform and seemed to be like, wow, about it. It was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go meet some friends, going out to eat, but that's mostly my updates as far as nursing goes. Just wanted to fill you guys in on how it's going, and till next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye, guys.